I'll now request Bindhani to come over. She's Director of the Institute responsible for operations and research in the Institute. She has additional responsibility to oversee implementation of government-funded programs which promote entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Lalit, for inviting me to speak here today. I'm the second university incubator and accelerator. I represent Ryerson University, and I'm going to talk about a few different things. I'm going to talk about the digital media zone that few of you may have heard, come, walked, taken a look. It's a very interesting place. If you haven't done it, I really encourage you to do it. I'm also going to talk about the Center for Urban Energy, which has recently been opened at Ryerson University. And besides these two, there are a couple different programs that I thought might be relevant to those of you who are entrepreneurs here. One is called Summer Company, which is a funding from the Ontario government for entrepreneurship, and this is for youth. So if you have, cousins or children who are of that age, I think that will be very relevant. And the last one is it's internship program, but it is also for those of the entrepreneurs who want to be able to use wage subsidy to take talented people to work in their organizations. So Ryerson University, we're a city-based university. We like to pride ourselves as the innovator and a career-focused university. We are urban. We don't have an enclosed campus. If you walk around, it stretches anywhere from, I guess now it's Bay Street all the way to Gerrard. No, actually more than Gerrard on the north, and on the east we've gone beyond Church Street, and on the south I think we end at Queen Street. But we're constantly looking at places where, sorry, my mistake, we go up to Carlton with the recent acquisition of the Maple Leaf Gardens, which has now been named Mattamy Athletic Center. That's where the Loblaws exist on the ground floor and the hockey rink on top. We are reshaping the downtown. A few years ago, Yonge and Dundas was probably not as animated, not as interesting to walk around, and I think the presence of university there and the classrooms we hold in AMC theaters, that has added to the animation there. The digital media zone is, well, we consider ourselves the largest incubator and multidisciplinary workplace. What is different about the digital media zone is it's open to all. It's not just restricted to Ryerson alumni and students. It's actually open to anybody and everybody who has an interest in, who has an underpinning of their business idea in the digital space, and we welcome those people. It's a unique ecosystem of education and entrepreneurship. We encourage the entrepreneurs there to interact with our students, to help them learn, to hire them sometimes, and we provide funding for hiring students. And so far we've launched 31 successful companies, so we incubate them. Some have been accelerated, some have stepped out and gone out, and some have continued to remain. We believe it's about 668 jobs that have been fostered and created. And the reason I say the 634 tours and counting are important because the space is designed for bumping into each other, getting to collaborate, getting to understand who's doing what. And so when we conduct these tours, there have been several interesting outcomes. We've had people walk in, for example, Heather Reisman from Indigo Books. She walked in, she was, as part of a tour, she encountered one of the founders of an interesting company called HitSend, and she decided she wanted to buy that software and implement it in her space. So that was one of the paid things, and I can talk more about HitSend perhaps during Q&A. So what we do at the DMZ is there are sort of 4 steps to an entrepreneur's idea. The first one, where you're really looking at educating yourself, it's a germ of an idea, or you're tossing it around in your head, trying to think, how do you sort of make it function well? That's the initial part. That's where you're sort of just formulating the idea. that when you come to that space where you are now fixed on exactly what you want to do, that's your ideating space. You come to DMZ after those two phases have been taken care of. So the point where you are ready to come to DMZ is where we say you'll be incubated. And all we're really looking for at the DMZ is you have a unique and collaborative idea that is underpinned by digital media. You have a comprehensive business plan, and it's a good thing to have a prototype along with you to explain what your idea is. And you're willing to be part of a very collaborative space. If you haven't come to DMZ, it's set up deliberately, a bit like a labyrinth. It's not straight corridors. You will bump into people. You will encounter people. It's what I call the funky cool space. There's balls sitting somewhere. People are putting their feet up, sitting on sofas and working. It's a very, very interesting and cool space. And this is where we invite this is where we invite the entrepreneurs to start testing their model and looking at how they can further it. And there are some specific steps, and again, I can go into that during the Q&A. We incubate companies. We also help accelerate companies, so there's that stage as well. And at that point, you either choose to exit or continue to stay. The reason we have found that some companies are good for both the DMZ to continue to stay is because there's learning from the companies that have accelerated and have become sort of stabilized. The new companies get to learn from these older quote-unquote companies too. Moving on to sort of what the learning resources we have. There are plenty others, but this is what I just picked up, only because we're aiding people coming into the digital media zone through a special program called Digital Specialization. We do focus at Ryerson in being a community and a city builder. That helps us be as inclusive as possible. So it's not just young kids who are only interested in creating apps or wikis. It is much more socially inclusive. I have young women who are building their companies, and they are encouraged to do that. They have great ideas, but perhaps don't have the means of how do you underpin that great idea through a digital specialization. We also have what's called the Start Me Up program. It's full of resources. It's online, and young entrepreneurs can actually go to Start Me Up and start collating their data and going through a plan, self-paced, and they can draw from resources. Also, we have one of the largest faculty groups in Ryerson, which is the Ryerson Entrepreneurship Program. Researchers who can help individuals and can do the mentorship are able to help with their research, and so there's that support as well. The Center for Urban Energy, Q as we have termed it, is actually developing solutions for urban energy issues. I think the research that we have read is by 2050, 70% of the population in the world, not alone in Canada, is going to be living in urban centers. So some of the areas that this energy center is focused on tackling is smart systems, renewable and clean energy generation, conservation, demand and storage management, as well as smart grids. The underpinning of this Center for Urban Energy is very much research driven. It's very much based on research, collaborating with our faculty members and external faculty members, and then developing the entrepreneurial idea as well as learning through that process. We have several international partnerships that have come to Q to develop their ideas. We help organizations if they are interested in shaping and defining their urban energy future. That's another area of collaboration. As I said, we research, develop, and commercialize ideas. And there's also help in testing, in creating a prototype and constructing and monitoring and what have you. And plenty of, and this is a center that has been funded by Toronto Hydro, the Ontario Power Authority, as well as Ontario Hydro. So they also have a mission to ensure that this is a collective issue that is being tackled by the city. So there's research funding available. I'm just going to talk very briefly about the other supports available to entrepreneurs, one of which is very recently announced Ontario government initiative. It's for youth entrepreneurship. It's for people, it's for youth between 15 and 29 years of age. All they're really asking is they try the idea. Doesn't matter whether they fail or succeed, but try the idea. They're going to fund up to $3,000 just to try this idea over summer, and we will be there to help evaluate their programs, help incubate their ideas, as well as provide any mentoring that is required. There are 400 spots across Ontario, and Ryerson is the downtown hub. And we will be there throughout that phase to help to encourage the thinking. And the critical part is Ontario government is saying these are individuals who will be returning back to their school, college, or university. So they don't expect this idea to actually even come to fruition. The whole encouragement is just to get thinking along those lines. The other last program that I'm going to talk about is called the Graduate Enterprise Internship, and this is for entrepreneurs like you who may be looking for some support by way of wage subsidy. And this is all exclusive to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and hence they're called the STEM internships, but that is also available. You get $10,000 to $15,000 of wage subsidy for anyone you hire. And again, it's not restricted to Ryerson University graduates. We are able to support graduates from other universities as well. They could be undergraduate students, or they could be master's level students. And this is funded by the federal government. I'm going to end with a few names and email addresses of people, just because Ryerson, you know, what happens in universities is you don't know who to get in touch with. Who are you going to ask that question? So I've listed these three areas, but I'm happy to answer any questions that might come up right now.
Any questions?
The GEI program for wage subsidies, is that matching funds, or is it a grant for internships?
No, it's a matching fund. So organizations, if you paid $30,000, you would get $15,000 back.
No more questions?
So the last speaker from UFT mentioned some of the larger success stories that have gone on to YC. Can you mention maybe two of your favorite companies?
Sure. I can mention Flybits, which is actually one of the companies that I put through as an example of, you know, they were incubated, they were accelerated, they are in a position actually to step out of DMZ, and they are one of those companies that are being wooed by the Silicon Valley quite actively. It's called Flybits, and it's a context-aware computing. The whole idea is very simple, really. You go into a city or a zone, as opposed to downloading apps to be able to find out, you know, your restaurant, your hotel or retail. This software is actually able to recognize and provide it just automatically. So that's one of the companies that's very successful. And the reason we are very proud of having been able to retain Flybits is because the founder is an alumni of Ryerson University, and because of his presence, a lot of the younger companies are able to learn of the process he and his teammates went through. So there's a huge amount of learning through just the osmosis factor.
Sure. Thanks very much.
Yes.
Do most of your successes, I really like your chart, it said sales and revenue, which is great, not funding from a VC, for instance. Are all your successes in sales mode with customers? Or are they pre-revenue?
So if I understand your question, are you asking?
The graduates.
Oh, the graduates, okay. So you're talking about the DMZ or the?
DMZ success story, is it
Yeah.
a company that has sales, or is it a company that might have sales?
That might have sales. There is another story called Ping Pong. Ping Pong's, it's actually called Ping Pong Storybook. It's a young woman. She's still in her third year in the university, and she started this online storybook based on animated characters. And she has membership growing every day, and she hopes to make some money someday. But right now, she's just it's based on membership and no.
So the success metric was users in
Yes.
that case.
Yes.
Thank you. Last question. Is the STEM program for science and technology graduates who are currently students, or it will be ex-students as well?
If they are master's level, they could have gotten their degree in the last 5 years.
Thank you so much.